I'm Dennis LeGear, and we're getting down to the brass tacks and hard facts of the Freeman ratio. What is the Freeman ratio and who was John Freeman? John Freeman was a luminary in the fire service. In the late 1800s, he did all the hydraulic work that basically is the foundation of all modern fire stream handline development in the United States. The ratio that he came up for handline nozzles is that ideally the cross-sectional area of the nozzle should be half the size of the hose that it's attached to, especially at low pressures. Let's take a look at this concept in more detail because you need to understand it to properly spec a handline attack package system at a low pressure. For example, a 15/16. 15/16 is 0.9375. If you times 0.9375 by 2, you roughly get 1.88 inches. So, wait a minute, we've been attaching these nozzles to 1 3/4 hose. That's not necessarily true. In the fire service, the hose size is nominal. This hose might be marketed as 1 3/4, but the actual inside diameter is 1.88 inches, which meets the Freeman ratio. Many fire departments that use the 15/16 nozzle use hose that is 1.88 inches. Why is this important? It affects the speed of the water in the hose and the speed of the water coming out of the nozzle. If we do the area of a 15/16 circle, you will find that it is 1/4 the area of a 1.88 inch circle. The water will be traveling through this hose at roughly 21 feet per second. As the water accelerates, when it gets to the nozzle, it's 1/4 the size. So it has to accelerate 4 times in an ideal Freeman ratio. That produces an 85 feet per second stream. At 85 feet per second, you have plenty of reach at a low nozzle pressure for the modern fire that we're faced with. What if your department is not going to spec a smoothbore nozzle and they want a fog nozzle on that particular line? Can you still meet the Freeman principle? Absolutely. For example, this is 1.88 inch hose. We already know the ideal cross-sectional size would be 0.9375 to meet the Freeman ratio. This stem is marked 185 at 50. If we did the area of the space that it creates, it would be that 0.9375. So it would meet the Freeman ratio. When this fog nozzle reached 50 PSI, there would be 21 feet per second of water traveling through this hose. It would get to an area that is 1/4 the size and it would accelerate to 85 feet per second. And it will put down lots of fire with a low reaction force. That's the benefit of the 50 PSI nozzle. What if you can't meet this ideal? What if you have hose that is not half the diameter? Or what if you have hose that is not robust or premium like this hose and it might whip and kink more? Can we increase nozzle pressure, also known as back pressure, and still meet the Freeman principle? Not exactly, but we can work towards that gold standard. For example, I could have a 185 at 75 PSI nozzle. 185 gallons a minute would be still traveling through this 1.88 inch hose, so it's 21 feet per second. You would get more nozzle reaction and a faster stream. It would be roughly 100 feet per second coming out of the nozzle. Is that a large problem? Well, if it fixes your hose problem, you should do it. You should make the line most deployable and easiest to advance. It's a package. These things are interrelated. For example, we all know that an 1/1/8 nozzle is commonly deployed on 2.5 inch handline. Well, if you take 1/1/8 and you times it by 2, you'd say ideally it should be on 2.25 inch hose. Well, 2.5 inch hose divided by 2 is 1.25 inch. That's why the 1.25 inch is usually the largest handline nozzle on a 2.5 inch hose. It would meet that 21 feet per second through it. But at 50 PSI, an 1.25 inch nozzle, it has a lot of nozzle reaction, even at 50 PSI. So some departments deploy either an 1 3/16 or an 1 1/8. It doesn't meet the Freeman principle, but it does fix their other issue with nozzle reaction. So this is a balancing act. We know what the gold standard is, but as education of the Freeman ratio becomes more prevalent in the American Fire Service, as we move to low pressure attack systems, you will see this balance and gold standard more likely achieved at fire departments. With good premium spec hose and 50 PSI nozzles, maintaining the Freeman ratio, you're gonna have the best possible gold standard fire stream development on a fire ground.